When you hear the nickname Pistol Pete in the sports world, it calls to mind only two legendary figures. One is Pete Maravich, a spectacular showman who helped change basketball in the 1970s, and the other is Pete Sampras, whose tennis serve left his opponent overwhelmed and crushed. In this video, we will look back at 8 reasons why Pete Sampras was not only good, but one of the greatest of all time. Number 8. Incredible shot maker. Pete Sampras is one of the greatest of all time because his opponents had a hard time coping with his game. The most talked about part of Pete's game was his serve. Pete had flexible shoulders to put the ball on a dime, as Americans would say. Pete had the best second serve in the business and was not afraid to go for deep second serves. Sampras could hit second serves there over 120 miles per hour. Pete was remarkable in his serve because he had put a lot of thought into it and had the ability to hit a slice and kick. When he went down the middle, he often came over it with topspin while adding slice, so the ball straightened after pitching, going away from the opponent's forehand, anywhere between 110 to 135 miles per hour. Now that is remarkable. Sampras' forehand is up there among the very best in history because he was able to generate incredible pace and get a lot of spin on the ball with reasonably high net clearance for control. Pete's backhand is considered a weakness by the media as it wasn't as good as his forehand. However, it was still a good shot because everything is relative. Sampras was good at trading topspin backhands and hit them very high over the net with a lot of loop, deep, and trying to get a short ball that he could attack. Sampras would also use the slice to mix up the play, trying to get his opponent off balance to take over the rally. Pete could hit any passing backhand and forehand down the line, cross court and lob, or go to the body, opening up the next shot. Yes, Sampras was so good because his shot quality was off of the charts. Number 7. Dominated the serve and volley era. The 1990s was a time when serve and volley was the optimal style of tennis, and Pete Sampras was the maestro of this style. In that era, breaking your opponent's serves was difficult because of the incredible fast bounces produced by big serves and ground strokes. Pete Sampras adapted to these conditions, and his serve volley record is still considered the greatest the game has ever seen. Sampras was a great returner because in his early years, Pete liked to run around the backhand to hit big forehand returns. In his later years, he employed the chip and charge tactic a lot more, especially between 2000 and 2002. Sampras had an incredible net game. His forehand volley was great because of his firm wrist. Pete came into his own on half volleys and stop volleys. Yes, Sampras, the serve and volley maestro. Number 6. Athletic and one of the best to watch when in the zone. Pete was athletic in his movement around the court, therefore in the baseline rallies he could hold his own and often come out on top. Pete probably had the best overhead in history. Not too many players got lobs over him, and his slam dunk was a signature shot. Fred Perry stated, "Sampras moves like oil. You don't hear him, you just hear the other guy, and the other guy's losing." And as commentator Bill Threlfall once said jokingly, Sampras has rubber legs. In the purest sense, Sampras in full flight was something beautiful to watch. At times he played near perfect and blew away guys who were considered rivals, like Michael Chang and Carlos Moya. He made a good opponent look overmatched. It was like art in motion, and like Pablo Picasso having a paintbrush in his hand painting his famous pieces. Number 5. Handling pressure and decisive edge in the mental game. It was Sampras' mental game as much as his weapons-grade serve, punishing forehand, and deft net play that set him apart from his rivals. Endowed with a preternatural sense for finding the pattern of play that most disrupted his opponent's rhythm, Sampras could strip the emotion out of the occasion and conjure his best tennis at the most important times. Sampras might not have pulled the ace out every time he was a break point down, but it sure felt like he did. The coolness, the composure, the calm. Even today, if you had one point to save your life, you would probably want him playing it. Yes, Sampras was as cool as the other side of a pillow. Number 4. Nearly untouchable at Wimbledon. Pete Sampras was so good because he was dominant at Wimbledon. Sampras won 7 Wimbledon titles in 8 years, his only failure in that stretch being a quarterfinal loss to Richard Krajicek in 1996. Sampras won his first Wimbledon title in 1993 by beating Andre Agassi, Boris Becker, and Jim Courier in succession. All 3 victims were ranked number 1 at one time, and each won at least 4 Grand Slam singles titles. That led Sampras to an impressive streak of 25 consecutive match wins that ended with the loss to Krajicek. Between his 1992 semifinal loss to Goran Ivanisevic and his 4th-round loss to Federer in 2001, Sampras won 56 of 57 matches at Wimbledon. The math is staggering: 1 loss in 8 years. That is just unbelievable. And it also means that Sampras has the stupendous record of never losing a Wimbledon final, going 7-0 in title-deciding matches. Yes, the man was untouchable at the All-England club. Fun fact, you would think Pete loved Wimbledon with all the success. Well, think again. He was quoted as stating, "I made it look so easy on court all those years. No one realized how hard I had to work. No one realized how much I had put into it. They underestimated my intensity." Well, that's pretty interesting. Also, Sampras is like the rest of us in deciding who is the GOAT. In the past, he has been quoted as saying Roger Federer due to the numbers. However, in 2021, he changed his mind, stating, "I do think what Novak's done over the past 10 years, winning the majors, being consistent, finishing number 1 for 7 years, to me, it's a clear sign that he is the greatest of all time." Yeah, we know it's not an easy decision, Pete. Number 3, better than his rival Agassi. Pete Sampras was so good because he outplayed his top rival, Andre Agassi. The Agassi-Sampras rivalry was a tennis rivalry between Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras, who were both ranked world number 1 during the 1990s. With contrasting styles and temperaments, they played each other 34 times, from 1989 through 2002, with the head-to-head finishing 2014 favoring Sampras. It has been named as one of the greatest tennis rivalries of all time. In Grand Slam tournaments, they played in 5 finals, with Sampras winning 4. They met for the first time in a Grand Slam final at the 1990 US Open, with Agassi the favorite because of his superior ranking, even though Sampras had defeated former world number 1 players Ivan Lendl and John McEnroe en route to the final. Sampras defeated Agassi in straight sets. The last match in their rivalry came at the 2002 US Open final. It was their first meeting in the final since Sampras won in 1995. Yes, Sampras won this rivalry and seemed to beat Andre in the big finals when it mattered most. Number 2, records and accolades. Sampras was so good at tennis because the records and accolades he earned proved it over the years. In 1990, when he won the US Open, Sampras became the youngest ever male singles champion at the age of 19 years and 28 days. He still holds one achievement that hasn't been matched nor bettered. Sampras won his 6-year and number 1 titles in consecutive years between 1993 and 1998. Sampras stated jokingly, "I think that's the only record I'm going to have left." Now that I look back on it, knowing how difficult it is to finish number 1 once or twice, but to do it 6 years in a row, the consistency that I had, the endurance, the will, I think it is one of my best achievements. I always based my year on the majors, and the bonus beyond that was to finish number 1. He was ranked the world number 1 for a total of 286 weeks, the third most in the Open era after Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer. Sampras also shares the record of 5 US Open titles in the Open era with Jimmy Connors and Federer. Pete's win-loss record in Grand Slam finals is unmatched at 78% win rate in 18 appearances for players who have appeared in at least 10 Grand Slam finals. He is the only American male player to win more than 10 slams. When he left the sport, he had the most Grand Slam wins at 14, until he was upstaged by the men in the Big 3 era. However, Pete Sampras was a record breaker. Number 1 would be stiff competition for the Big 3. In no particular order, Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, and Roger Federer are now considered the best male tennis players in history. However, many feel that Sampras would not stand a chance in the current era. The 1990s required faster reactions, greater execution, and stronger defensive abilities. But it was also a time when players were at a greater risk of sustaining career-changing injuries due to the lower quality of medical technology compared to today. Pete Sampras may have played for another decade if allowed to undergo sophisticated knee and back surgeries, as many of today's top players have done. It could also be argued that the current Big 3 would not have been able to adapt their current styles to the era of the early 90s, where relentless attacking was the way to go. Sampras demonstrated he could play at a high level in both eras of tennis, when he took Roger Federer to a 5-set thriller in their only ever match in the 2001 fourth round of Wimbledon. It demonstrated his incredible ability to adapt to different court speeds and surface specialist opponents. Had Pete Sampras continued to play in his late 30s as Federer did, there is no telling how much more he would have accomplished in the new era of tennis. We know in our heart of hearts that Sampras would be stiff competition for the Big Three, and another evidence as to why we say the man was one of the greatest. But what do you think of Pete Sampras' career? Could he have challenged the Big Three of this era? Let me know in the comment section below, smash that like button, and subscribe to this channel for more premium content. Until next time.